Well, 2023 hasn't been the best reading year so far, has it? Hi everyone, welcome back to How to Train Your Gavin. I wasn't exactly going to do this video, and I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, can I even do like a best books of 2023, worst books of 2023? I can't do any of that. And I'm realizing now just how messed up my reading year has actually been when I had a look at these questions and realized I could barely answer them. It's totally my fault, but even so, I'm going to attempt to do the mid-year book freakout tag, which was originally created by Earl Grey Books and Chami. I will leave their channels linked down below, and they do have a lot of questions in it. I am doing what a lot of other booktubers are doing right now, and like changing some questions, taking some out that, you know, we can't really answer, or like our tastes have changed, and I've also added some like booktube type questions in there too. Like, I would barely call myself a booktuber this year. I've been focusing more on making videos than actually reading books. I mean, I have read loads of books, but like, I've mainly been doing videos. Does that make sense? I don't think that makes sense at all. But let me explain, and I'll go through by answering the questions. And I'm going to start off with a question that isn't part of the original tag, but I've seen some people answer this question before they get into it. So the first one I'm going to answer right now is, how has your 2023 reading year gone so far? Honestly, not great. And I'm going to try and turn that around in the second half of the year, because I can't even tell you the books that I've genuinely loved this year, other than some of the really obvious things. Because if I look at each month, each reading month since January, it's a sad state of affairs. It is. January, I read Vampire Diaries and One Piece. In February, I read Gossip Girl and One Piece. In March, I pretty much just read One Piece. In April, I read Goosebumps Most Wanted and One Piece. In May, I read The Secret Circle and, you guessed it, One Piece. Every single month I've just been reading One Piece and something else, and it hasn't been the best reading yet outside of One Piece. Of course, I love One Piece with my whole heart, as you guys know, but when I look at everything else, I'm like, okay, I've been working on like really big projects that take so much time and so much effort to read. My current total of books read so far this year is 152. If you take out all of the manga, I'm probably left with around about 50. And then if you take out all of the book project books that I've read, I'm probably left with 10. I've probably read like 10 actual books outside of video projects and One Piece. That honestly shook me to my core when I realized that statistic. So now my main goal is for the rest of 2023 is to make sure that I'm reading outside of these silly projects that I'm working on. And I say silly, I do love working on them, but it just means that I have nothing to recommend, because I don't recommend Gossip Girl, I don't recommend The Vampire Diaries, I don't recommend Secret Circle, and I don't recommend Goosebumps Most Wanted. So like, what am I left with? What am I left with? And I don't want to be just a manga channel. I know a lot of people who are subscribed to me don't watch my videos that are related to manga. I know I kind of shot myself in the foot here because I have been focusing on a lot of manga, even though I think half of my videos every single month are still related to other types of books, other projects too. There is obviously a bias towards manga right now, which I don't personally think is too much of a bad thing, but when it comes to my actual content and me wanting to be able to recommend more books, it's not a great thing for me. So I'm going to try and find that balance for the rest of the year. I'm going to try and do my absolute best to be a better booktuber. I apologize that I haven't been very good the first half of the year. Like, I'm scared for the end of year content already. At the minute, I have nothing for my best books of 2023. And I do have a few for the worst books of 2023. And I don't want to be that kind of booktuber. I don't want to be that kind of booktuber who only focuses on the negative. So you're going to see some changes made in the next 6 months. I also do want to quickly mention that I only have 1 spot left on my trip to Egypt next year with Trover Trip. And I do still have 8 spots left for the Japan trip that's happening this year. So I will leave links for both the trips down below. You can get $100 off the Japan trip with Gavin 100 at checkout. But yeah, my Egypt trip went live yesterday and I only have 1 spot left. The Egypt trip is happening next year in November 1st to November 9th, 2024. So plenty of time to save for it if you want to come along. But again, there's only 1 spot left. I anticipate it selling out straight away. I'm going to be joined by my bestie Lexi in Egypt too. We're going to be having an overnight sailing adventure on the Nile River. We're going to be going on a sleeper train from Cairo to Aswan. We're going to be seeing all of the pyramids, the Sphinx. We're going to be reading a murder mystery together and trying to solve it together in person. It's just going to be an amazing time. So I will again leave the link down in the description box if you want to check it out. But be quick, because yeah, there's only 1 spot left. And I will pin a comment down below as well if it's already gone by the time this video goes up. So what is my best book of 2023 so far? Obviously outside of One Piece, which is honestly my life. I would probably say The Night Sun by Zinne Rocklin. I read this one recently, but it's only really a 33-page short story, essentially. And I would probably say that is probably the best thing I've read this year. Because it's so short, I don't want to go too in-depth with the plot synopsis of it. I do talk about it in my 30 East Drive video, but essentially it's about a couple and they are going to a remote cabin, and on the way to this cabin, they accidentally kill a deer. Very, very heavy trigger warnings for domestic violence, so if that is not your cup of tea, then stay away from it. But I do think it was probably one of the best written things I've ever read this year, and it's definitely stood out amongst a lot of the other stuff that I've read. In terms of middle grade, I would probably say The Last Quintista by Donna Barbara Higuera. This one is a dystopian sci-fi middle grade. This one follows Petra and her family. They are some of the last people alive on Earth who are put into a space shuttle with some other people, and they get blasted off into space while Earth is being destroyed by a comet. This one's a lot more thought-provoking than I thought it would be. I thought this would be more of a fun space kind of adventure, but it actually made me think a lot about the universe, and for it being a middle grade too, tackling with some really heavier topics was just so perfect to read. I read this one for a Patreon book club pick, and it's probably the best Patreon book club pick book I've read so far. And manga, One Piece. For the best sequel that I've read so far this year, I don't have any adult or young adult sequels that I've read that I actually enjoyed. There is one that's going to be in the biggest disappointment section because I had such high hopes for it. But in terms of that, most of the sequels I've read this year have been sequels to like Vampire Diaries, Secret Circle, Gossip Girl, stuff like that. But the only sequel that really stands out is a middle grade, and that is Rainbow Grey Battle for the Skies by Laura Ellen Anderson. It's such a cute and wholesome end of a trilogy too. It was so heartbreaking that this is the end of Rainbow Grey, but so much fun. There is an evil villain called Tornadia who is causing havoc, not just in the Weatherlands, but also all of Earth. And of course, I absolutely love the fact that my character, Gusty Gavin, made his return. A new release that I haven't read yet, but really want to, I have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, of course, because this has been mentioned everywhere. I'm going to try and read it in July. And yeah, the hype has definitely swept me up in this, and I don't even know that much about it. I think some people have described it as a romantasy. I know it's definitely fantasy, but I don't know like how heavily it leans into the romance. I've avoided spoilers, and I've avoided too in-depth discussions of it, but everyone's pretty much talking about it. And this is the part where I'm like, I want to be a booktuber again. I want to be able to recommend things again. I want to be able to read what other booktubers are reading and other booktube watchers are reading, you know? And this one is just like taking booktube by storm right now. I think there are dragon riders and there is a war going on, and honestly to me it sounds like every other fantasy out there, but I'm still excited to give it a read. There is also The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson, which I think has not long just came out. And The Kind Worth Killing, the original one, was a sort of Strangers on a Train kind of retelling, and I have no idea what The Kind Worth Saving is even going to do, because the first book is just like, well, it felt like a standalone really, so I don't know what this one entails, but I know that Gabby from Gabby Reads has recently read it and really enjoyed it. In fact, I'm sure she said she might even prefer it over the original book, so I have high hopes for it. And Peter Swanson is an author I didn't think I would enjoy, so this means a lot to me. For most anticipated release of the second half of the year, I have 3. 2 of them are middle grade, one of them's a YA graphic novel. I don't actually have any adult books that I'm excited for, that I know of anyway. I'll just take them as they come. But the YA graphic novel that I'm really excited for is called North Ranger by Ray Terciero and Brie Indigo. This is described as a queer Northanger Abbey inspired graphic novel, and it follows Cade, who starts working at a Texas ranch, and he ends up falling for the ranch owner's son, and he also discovers that the ranch owner's son might be harboring a dangerous secret. But the fact that it's Northanger Abbey inspired by Jane Austen, one of my favorite Jane Austen books, I love it so much, makes me really want to read this one. As soon as I saw Northanger Abbey inspired, I was like, that one's mine. For the 2 middle grades, maybe the other one is more YA actually, because it's, you'll understand in a second. But the middle grade I'm definitely really excited for is Arcspire by Jamie Littler. He is the author of Frostheart, which is my favourite middle grade series of all time. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that Arcspire is a magical city. We have Arcanist, we have a main character called Juniper Bell, who is a thief, and I believe she ends up bonding with some kind of magical creature, and adventures ensue. I don't know a whole lot. I need to read it, but it's definitely going to be the first thing I read as soon as it comes out, which will be only in a few weeks' time. In fact, is it next week? Oh my god, I already have a pre-order from Waterstone, so it's all good. And the middle grade, but probably also considered YA, depends on how you view the series, but it's the new Percy Jackson book, Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods. I know I haven't read all of Percy Jackson or all of Rick Riordan's books, and I keep saying that I'm going to, but I am excited for this one. It has beautiful sprayed edges from Waterstones, and I will try and catch up to the series and then read it. I do believe I need to read like Heroes of Olympus and everything first before I read the new Percy Jackson. But you know what? It's getting me hyped. Percy Jackson is still quite nostalgic to me, even if I haven't finished the series. I still have some attachment to it because of that. And just having a new book in that series just makes me excited. For my biggest disappointments, I don't think I own either of them anymore. I do not. I must have unhauled them the second I finished reading them. So biggest disappointments, I've got two. First one is Finny Donovan Jumps the Gun? Is that what the third one's called? By El Cosimano. Finny Donovan 3. I was so gutted by it because I loved the first book so much. It was one of my favourite books of last year. And then I read the second and third book back to back, and the second book was fine. It was still good in my eyes, but I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. And then I ended up giving Finny Donovan 3 2 stars. I was so disappointed by it. I was expecting something more. I feel like it's starting to overstay its welcome as a series. I think we've stretched beyond the original premise of Finny Donovan, which is something I really enjoyed about the first book, and it's kind of getting a little bit too ridiculous. I do kind of love this slapstick, sitcom-y kind of feeling of the first book, where we have Finny Donovan, who is a writer, but she's mistaken for a hitwoman, just as a baseline synopsis of that. But I feel like we're now overstaying its welcome. It's getting too ridiculous in my eyes, and the fact that I think it's going to be a 7-book series, I think there's definitely going to be more books. I don't know if it is actually going to be 7. I do know there are multiple books coming still, and I'm just tired. I'm exhausted. I don't think I ever want to read another Finny Donovan book again. Unfortunately, the third book really put me off. I might wait until reviews come in for the fourth book, say if people love it, hate it, and then decide whether I'm DNF in the series. But it's such a shame considering how much I loved the first book. And the other one is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I get more and more disappointed as each Grady Hendrix book comes out. I don't know if maybe I'm just being too much of a bitch on this one, so I was kind of hesitant whether or not to include it, but considering how much I did used to love Grady Hendrix, and I'm sure I've mentioned a Grady Hendrix disappoint me for the last couple of years now, you guys are probably sick of it, but that man continues to disappoint me. I had high hopes for it because I love haunted houses, as you know. I love to get myself in there myself and get spooked. But honestly, my stay at 30 East Drive was scarier than anything that happened in How to Sell a Haunted House. He usually does have a good balance of like horror and humor, but I just felt the whole thing was ridiculous. I don't think a single part of it was remotely scary. One thing I did like is I kind of liked the sibling relationship of the main characters. But other than that, there was just nothing that stood out to me. I found the humor was probably a little bit too much. And even the stuff with the dolls, because, you know, there are dolls in this story. It was just silly. It was just silly. And I just didn't love it. I just did not love it. Which is such a shame because I think that was the last chance I'm giving Grady Hendrix. So bye-bye. Okay, biggest surprise. I will say finding out that Sex with Shrek is top-notch. That was a huge surprise to me. So I will probably say Get My Swamp by J.M. Ferry. I don't know what I was expecting, but I still came out surprised. It was just so bizarre, and the way it kind of ruined my childhood a little bit. I'm kind of used to things ruining my childhood these days, but when it comes to Shrek, it's kind of sacred. And just the way that the characters were depicted, but the language in that one, describing Sex with Shrek as top-notch, just surprising. But the main surprises for me are two that aren't exactly serious books. But if you go in just for fun, then you can definitely see the appeal with them. One of them is Gossip Girl Psycho Killer, actually, by Cecily von Ziegesar. This one, even though it's not a great book by any means, really isn't. It's not well written, but this retells the original Gossip Girl book, and if you've watched the TV show, I would say the pilot episode, it rewrites that, but if Blair and Serena were serial killers. So they literally just go around killing people. It's so random. Some of the death scenes were actually like kind of interesting to watch and kind of gruesome, and it just felt ridiculous, like so ridiculous, but in such a good way. Not in the way of like How to Sell a Haunted House, for instance. This one never takes itself seriously, and I appreciate it for it. I think if I gave it a star rating, it would still be like 2 stars, but it was such a huge surprise considering how much fun I had during it. But the other one is Nun Massacre by Regina Watts, and this is similar as well. This is more like slasher. It's about a killer nun killing people in an abandoned school. An abandoned school where years before everyone was massacred, and it was just such a fun time too. I think it helps that I read it in a haunted location too. I think it added to the atmosphere. I did give it 4 stars at the end of the day. Again, not the best written book I've ever read, but if you just expect fun and enjoyment, you're gonna get it from this. Just like a bad slasher movie that you just can't stop watching. So I was definitely surprised by how much fun I ended up having with Both of these books, actually. I love me a slasher, what can I say? Next question is favourite new author, new or debut. Definitely not L.J. Smith. But even then, everything else I've read so far this year, it was just very hard to pick someone. But there is a standout author and illustrator, mangaka, who I've read this year for the first time, and that is Kentaro Miura. He wrote the Berserk series and unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. But when I tell you, the Berserk series, as heavy as it is, as dark as it is, the way that Kentaro Miura can write characters, the depth of the characters, and how he like peels away the layers of humanity is just so beautiful to read. Not just the dialogue, but the illustrations are so incredible, so incredibly detailed. I've never read a manga like this, and I genuinely couldn't think of a novel writer that I wanted to mention in this video. So Kentaro Miura, I think, definitely delivers such amazing storytelling with captivating illustration. Just an absolutely amazing author, and the world lost something when they lost Kentaro Miura. I wish he managed to finish his magnum opus. But what we do have so far, what I've read anyway, I've only read 2 arcs of Berserk. It's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The next question I usually skip every single year, but it is newest fictional crush. And even though I met this character in December, we ended up getting married at the start of this year, and his name is Ace from One Piece. Ace from One Piece, he is an absolute gorgeous specimen, and we fell in love literally straight away. Essentially, like, it was love at first sight. He loves me just as much as I love him. Our wedding ceremony was absolutely beautiful. Robin officiated the wedding. We had Luffy as our maid of honor, which honestly was a bad idea. And all of the Straw Hats, in fact, every single character in One Piece were in the audience, including the villains, because honestly, the marriage between Ace and Gavin, Gace, as we like to call ourselves, was the event of the century. Some people say finding the One Piece will be the event of the century. I disagree. It's the wedding between Gavin and Ace. A book that made you cry, without spoilers, One Piece. The only times I've cried this year, and I've cried twice, like really heavy, heavy tears, was when reading One Piece. I will include a couple of clips without spoilers, so don't worry, I won't be spoiling anything in the clips. But if you just want to see me like breaking down in tears, then enjoy. This is so awful. Why would you guys make me read this? Oh man, that's the end. God. That's not true. Oh no, it's the end of the chapter. No. A question I decided to add was a book that you saw on TikTok and decided to read, but now you regret it. And that for me is Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. Oh god. There was fan art made of this book that presented a different kind of story than I was expecting. So when I went into this and that scene happened, it didn't happen in the way it was depicted in the fan art. So while that is not the fault of the book, it did mean I went in with different expectations, and I ended up not loving this. Really did not end up loving this. I will say I was very intrigued by the actual mystery and the story of this for the majority of the book. It did overstay its welcome. I did not like the characters, which is always a detriment to the story. It just chipped away at the enjoyment as we went on. And I do like a good dark romance, but I don't think this was a really good depiction of that. And I felt it was decently written. It wasn't outwardly terrible in that regard, but definitely could have been so much better, because again, I love that mystery that it had. It was so intriguing, you know, like two characters who kind of love and loathe each other, end up on this island with a lighthouse and a mysterious man living in this lighthouse. That part was great, but it just unraveled so much and I ended up not enjoying it as much as I wanted to. Most beautiful book that you bought this year, I do have a couple. I know that my friend Steph actually showed these off in her mid-year book freakout tag video, but I agree, they are two of the most beautiful books that I've pulled this year. One that's coming out soon is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I managed to pre-order a copy of the Forbidden Planet edition, which after seeing the beautiful cover, the beautiful sprayed edge of that. I feel like that's going to end up being like one of the most beautiful books that I own. So I'm really excited for that to come out. But let me go and grab the actual ones that I've hold. But it's just such a pain in the butt to get. Okay, so the beautiful books that I got were the Crescent City series that were released by FairyLoot. I honestly do adore the fact that these have slip boxes and they match so beautifully too. I love the covers so much. I love the stencil edges so much. I love how they match. Just everything about the FairyLoot Crescent City series is 100% gorgeous. I love the colours, the red and the blue, oh my god. And I really enjoyed House of the Blood when I first read it 3 years ago. Still haven't read House of Sky and Breath though, I'm really scared. So another question that was mentioned is books that you need to read by the end of the year. I mean, I wouldn't mind putting House of Sky and Breath on there, but at the same time, do I really want to read it right now? I don't know. But there are so many books that I need to read by the end of the year that I didn't think I wanted to answer this question, because there's just too many. There's just too many. And I don't want to reveal all of my plans for the rest of the year. Just know there are many books that I need to read. I just need to get back on track. I have added on a few booktube questions too. I've seen at least one of these questions answered on somebody else's channel. I think it was Steph's actually, Steph from Steph Loves, about a video that you've made that you're proud of. At least so far this year. So like the favorite video that you've made so far in 2023. And for me, that would be the Gossip Girl video. It was the video that broke and made me. It was the longest I've ever worked on a video. I took 5 solid days of editing. I stayed up until the birds were singing and the sun was coming back up to edit. It took me all month to read all 14 books too. I really took my time with it. I made 30 odd pages of notes to mention in the video. It took me 2 solid days of filming. It was just such a nightmare to film and edit. But when I look back on it now, I'm like, I'm so proud. And I think as a whole, in hindsight, it is my favorite video that I've made. It's a long one. It's definitely a long one. It's my second longest video ever, but I just think it was so fun, which is odd to say because I know I complain about like how long it took to make, but I still love it. And it's the one I'm the most proud of. A video that you thought would flop, but actually did well. I would say for me, my A Week in the Life video, because it was more catered towards like sort of lifestyle rather than actually reading. And because I don't think I lead that much of an interesting life, A Week in the Life kind of video I thought would just not do well because there would just be nothing interesting at all to say and show you guys. But you know what? The reception of that one was really good too, and it's done better than I thought because I genuinely didn't think anyone would want to watch it. But it actually turned out to be quite fun to make too, and it was great to let you guys see what I do each day, how much time and effort I put into making videos and stuff like that. But I just thought because it wasn't reading, it wasn't me talking about books specifically, that I thought it would flop. Any videos that are coming up in 2023 that I'm excited to make, you guys have probably already heard these in different random videos, but definitely I think my 30 manga in 30 days video that I'm making, it's not 30 consecutive days, it's just I'm reading one random manga a day, using a spin the wheel to pick the next manga to read, just for fun and just seeing like how we get on. That one's gonna be really fun, I hope. I also have my 5th episode of I Have to Like My Friends' Favorite Books or I Unsubscribe from Their Channel series coming. I can't believe November was the last time I made a video in that series, and it's about time that I came back for it. And hopefully this will also help me with being able to recommend more books and reading more widely. So I'm so excited for that to come back. And honestly, my fall content mainly is what I'm excited for. I have my Japan vlog coming with my trip to Japan with my subscribers. That's going to be so fun, and I'm hoping to tie that in to maybe some Japanese ghost stories and make it bookish, you know, but also show you the beauty of Japan. Reading charm books, I'm really excited to do that video too because I did get a cameo video from Rose McGowan to include in that. I've also booked my return trip to Chillingham Castle, so I'm going to have 2 more nights there. I'm going to finish what I started off in the first Chillingham Castle video, and we're going to have some fun, hopefully. Well, I'm still scared, but I'm a lot more brave now, I think, dealing with things like that and like that kind of situation. And I think I'm going to approach Chillingham Castle with a bit more bravery this time. There are also other parts of the castle that I want to explore. I don't want to repeat the first Haunted Castle video. I want to do like different things, so I think it'll be really fun. And finally, goals for my channel for the rest of the year too. Definitely balance. I want to balance my channel out. I want to be able to give better recommendations. I want to read more widely. I want to be able to get to the end of the year and be like, these were my favorite books of the year so far, because I just can't give you any right now, which is just, it's breaking my heart. It's breaking my heart. And I would love to hit 70,000 subscribers too. I think that would be just a really great number to hit by the end of the year. I think that would be awesome. I'm so sorry my mid-year book freakout tag was so uneventful and uninspiring. I couldn't talk about a whole lot of books in this video, and I need to get better. I really do, and don't worry, I will. The rest of 2023 is going to be a bigger and better How to Train Your Gavin. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave all your comments down below. Answer the questions in the mid-year book freakout tag. I'll leave them in the description box. If you want to answer them yourself, I would love to know your answers to them. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons and my One Piece channel members. If you'd like to join my Patreon or my One Piece channel membership, then all the links are down in the description box. But yeah, I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye!